the selling time frame is that you're looking for, and how can we help.
Do you have any advice, Tim, that you would give to other sales leaders who are facing more of what you faced back at the turn of the century?
My advice would be to hang in there. When I was a young sales manager, probably 25, 26 years old, my regional manager pulled me aside and said to me I had a tendency to push people instead of pull them, and I had no idea what he meant at the time. I have subsequently learned what he meant, and my advice would be to inspire your people to do great things and inspire your people to continue to passionately want to come in every day and to sell rather than trying to whip them into shape. We need to inspire them to do their jobs, and that's sometimes a very fine line, but that would be my advice. These are tough economic times, but we can pull through, but you can't continue to do the same thing. If you need to change the way that you do business, if you need to change the profile of your salespeople that you're hiring, then change the profile.
You changed the profile of the salespeople. Can you tell me how you changed that?
We had always hired people with a lot of industry experience, or had looked for people with a lot of industry experience. A couple of years ago, started hiring people right out of school. Basically, we're growing our own. Our goal is to get them to the point where they're making a lot of money and realize it's a good working environment. They don't want to leave. But we've hired a number of people with significantly less experience than we ever would have looked at and have seen great success with them. We have enough now that we can track what to expect in the first year of sales and the second year of sales and those types of things. But completely different, and it's working.
So not looking for experience, but really looking for potential.
I've got a young guy that I hired a couple of years ago, and I didn't caliper him till after I hired him. This kid works like a dog, and he's having a measure of success. He's going to be one of those middle-of-the-packer people. He's never going to soar to great heights, but he's going to be middle of the pack and upper middle of the pack because he just works hard.
Mm-hmm.
He every day, day after day after day after day after day, he just sticks his nose to the grindstone and he just works. And we all recognize he'll probably never be a superstar. He's like Rudy sitting on the bench at Notre Dame from the movie. He's Goat Raye, he's a cheerleader, and
right.
He does all those things.
Well, and in many ways, too, Tim, I'm sure, being a sales leader as you are, if you have your choice of him or somebody who's really got it but turns it on and off, that kind of person can be very frustrating.
And destructive to the team.
And destructive to the team. A very good point, yes.
Yeah, because we believe a lot in teamwork here. And, if you've got that person that only works part-time and they're darn good when they work, that is destructive to the team. We sit down here and we set goals with people, and they're all individual, and we set goals at the beginning of the year, and then we work together to achieve those goals. And then everybody strives to do it, and it's more of a hands-off approach. Obviously we have guidelines and we have all those types of things, but we're all working toward the same goal, and rather than standing behind them and looking every day, what are your numbers? And we incent people. So everything's published, and everybody knows what everybody else is doing here. Again, we have a much of a team effort, but we're all working toward the goal. And salespeople tend to be independent thinkers, and they tend to be nonconformist. At least my successful salespeople are. And so when you try to push them into the box, either the box breaks or they go kicking and screaming.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Tim.
You're very welcome.
Great thoughts from Tim Barr of Telesource Systems. It was interesting to hear how Tim, as a sales leader, really considers himself to be a sounding board for his top salespeople, a person to talk to when they're frustrated, and I'm sure even more so now. And I think that's one of the reasons Tim is such a successful sales leader. He's able to honestly and genuinely connect with somebody. I'm wondering if that is beyond empathy, the trait we discussed earlier.
It's an ability to connect. It's an ability to genuinely like people and to want to relate to people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that can be taught, but I've seen people do that extremely well.
Great. I'd like to explore this a bit further in terms of some lessons that have been learned since the turn of the century. I'd like to speak now with Chris Pearson, the Director of Sales at Stratix Systems. Stratix was actually founded in 1970 as CopyWorld, Inc., and evolved from a copier company into a technology company that focuses on document and information management. It's become one of the fastest growing, most successful firms in the industry. Thanks for taking some time to talk with us, Chris.
You're very welcome.
Describe for us quickly, if you would, what your sales force is like.
I have a sales force of 15 people within the organization, covering pretty much the eastern part of Pennsylvania. We do about $8 million a year in revenue.
And what are you guys doing right now to prepare for these tough times?
We have really focused back to the basics. We have organized prospecting days where we try to make them meaningful. We share goals. We recap every hour with a group to build some team spirit. We have incentives such as scratch-off lottery tickets for the first 10 or 15 appointments. We have people doing well, and they're sharing their approach with the rest of the group during the recaps every hour. And we do brief phone techniques for training prior to beginning the marketing day. So we are very much back to the basics. We're focused on increasing the activity expectations, and we're adjusting the amount of working business ratio needed for success. We're educating our sales force to understand when to cut bait and realize there's not an opportunity. And it's also making a daily focus on their activity levels to make sure that they have enough in their funnel so that they can afford to have some go to the competition and still get their results.
It sounds like you've thought it through very, very clearly, Chris, in terms of how to work with the group as a team. But are there certain individuals who, because of who they are and how they're built, end up rising to the occasion, and others who end up just doubting themselves more?
It's human nature for salespeople to doubt themselves, especially on phone day when they're hearing people aren't making decisions because of the economy. And we are making it a very conscious effort as a management group to keep them focused, which is why we break every hour. We go through the results. We highlight reps that are having the success they should and work with the reps that aren't getting the success that they should and try to stay within inside their head and keep them focused. But definitely the more competitive-natured salespeople are the ones that are rising to the top.
Now, the competitive nature, tell me, is it being competitive with themselves, competitive with each other?
It's competitive amongst themselves. We do a very good job highlighting, where they stand amongst their peers, and there's recognition. They want to be number one, so we do a good job highlighting that. And it's also, when we're hiring, we're looking for competitive people by nature, people that were in sports, that excelled in sports. We look for people that were in an extracurricular activity that was competitive and wanted to be maybe the leader of that organization. So it starts from the interviewing process. So by nature, we hire pretty competitive people, but yet they're very team-spirited.
Beyond competitiveness, there's a certain something that some people have where they can thrive under pressure?
I would say most of the competitive people that have demonstrated in some point in their life that they've risen to the top can find ways to succeed in most environments. In fact, I've worked in many sales organizations where the company itself was in disarray, but yet there were people that were rising to the top, and there were people that would fall victims of it. A lot of it has to do with self-pride, self-worth, and their drive to be successful.
Just to go back for a second, Chris, to some of the people who are doubting themselves, and doubt has to creep in at all different times, and it's a matter of, I guess, how much time you spend on it, as you were saying. But as a sales manager, how do you help somebody get through that and replace that fear with confidence?
Okay, when someone's doubting themselves to where they're inhibiting themselves from succeeding, it's real important to have a strong management team that recognize that. We look for ratios on all areas of their business, from closing ratios to appointment ratios to pretty much every aspect of our business. And a strong manager needs to recognize when someone's not getting the results that they normally would get or that they should get, and to stop them from continuing in that activity and to readdress it, maybe give some on-the-spot training or share with them the results other people are getting to keep them focused. But in many cases, if someone's struggling, the manager needs to redirect them and to get them back on track rather